Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chaz Kayado, and today we're going to discuss trends in education. I've mentioned in a previous video, I might do one of these maybe twice a year, maybe one in the spring, one in the fall, just to kind of talk about what are some of the newer issues that are pressing in the education community. And so I'm going to be discussing an article, a recent article from Discovery Education on what are the pressing trends in education as of spring 2026. So some of these I'm sure will overlap video to video because some trends just take a while to work through the system. But very first trend that Discovery Education mentions for this year is the use of AI for differentiation. So we've talked about the use of AI quite a bit, right? So we've talked about how it's definitely not going away. It's only going to increase in terms of use in education, at least by the students. Maybe in the classroom, teachers may choose, districts may choose to use AI less or more, but we know that students will be using it at least on their own in order to help their education or to circumvent it, however you look at that. Um, but AI for differentiation specifically means that a very important topic in education is that learners are all different, right? You have some learners that, for instance, English is their second language. You have some learners that might learn better by seeing something, visual learners, and some learners can just read and understand. Everyone is going to learn a little bit different. And so the idea of differentiation is that you are able to introduce um, the content that you're trying to teach in different ways for different students. Um, and so this has been an issue mainly because when you look at, okay, well, how much time does a teacher have to do a lesson? How many different ways would they need to show the content in order to address everyone's learning style? Is it realistic for the teacher to be able to do all that and get through the lesson? These are topics that have been coming up even well before this new period of technology with AI. But AI is able to come up with those differentiation options a lot quicker than a teacher might, especially if you're working with AI in real time. There might be ways that students can interact with the AI to better understand the concept instead of necessarily waiting for the teacher to get to them with their specific learning style. So the organizations are going to have to look at this in terms of which way they address differentiation if they're going to use AI. And then there's also the risks that are associated with AI, which is just another major topic in education right now. When you introduce AI into the education space, you always mean it to be for good, but does it increase the amount of distractions that a student might have in the classroom? And there's also managing the use of the AI. Are our students rather, are they using the AI to circumvent learning just to get to the end of the topic, the end of the lesson, the end of the unit as quick as possible in a manner that doesn't really mean that they acquired the knowledge? These are things that teachers and districts are working through at this time. Teacher burnout was the next topic that Discovery Education had mentioned. Teacher burnout has been a topic that I can remember for as long as I've been an adult. I remember hearing about how teachers would burn out. Now there's several different reasons and several different ways that you could look at burnout. There is the idea of just mental fatigue. Teachers feel like they have limited amount of time to do a lot of things. This goes back to the differentiation that I was just mentioning. If a teacher feels like they have to present the same content 5 different ways during one classroom period, they may feel that they've lost the ability to do um, other parts of the lesson within that classroom time. And if there is a specific, like, let's say, standardized test that they're teaching towards, they may feel that they're constantly behind trying to get the students prepared for that standardized test due to the need to differentiate all their lessons. There's also, as noted in the article, a lack of improvements. Teachers may feel that their actual craft is not improving. They're not getting better as teachers because they feel that a lot of what they're doing is just checking boxes. And so every day they show up and they just have to check all these boxes. And so their actual professional development may suffer because of the fact that they're not really honing their craft. They're having to do what's necessary to say, I did X, Y, and Z. And some teachers are citing lack of improvement in their skills as a reason for not for feeling burnt out. And then workload management. Some teachers feel that they're required to do more than they have time to do. Many teachers talk about having to go home and have to grade papers outside of the time that they're at school. Their planning period isn't enough to get it done. And I know, and I've not always been a teacher, and I've listened to people in various different occupations, and I know that oftentimes teachers aren't considered to be the pinnacle of any particular career, or I'm sorry, just careers in general. Oftentimes you might hear people say, well, those who can't do teach. And so all of that negativity really dismisses the amount of stress that a teacher will feel like they're going through trying to manage what their responsibilities are, and oftentimes, even those weeks and months that they may have off in the summer doesn't do enough to really regenerate and recharge a teacher to prepare for the next round. And this is why so many teachers leave the profession. So that was the second one. Cell phone use was another topic that was discussed. There is an increase in cell phone use. I've actually seen, just doing doing the research for my dissertation, I've actually seen articles that discussed cell phone use within a class. Like for instance, the teacher will allow students to use their cell phone for certain assignments, and that kind of opens up a few different avenues for discussion. One, many schools are eliminating the use of cell phones in the classroom, so that really wouldn't even be an option for some schools. But then also, how do you make sure that the students are staying on task when they're on their cell phone? I do know that some computers at some schools, when you're on a specific Wi-Fi network, you can't access certain websites, so it helps keep the students in line. Or maybe you can only access a certain number of websites, but how would you do that with a cell phone if you have access to internet through just your data plan, right? So we are seeing that there's an increase in use. It is disrupting the class in many instances, but as noted in the article, it's more of like a symptom of disengagement. It's not necessarily the cell phone use itself that is causing the students to become disengaged with the work. It's just the simplest and easiest way to disengage with the work. I mean, but back before we had cell phones, you'd go look at a student's notebook, and some students would just, they would have doodles all over their notebook. And so that was a way that a student would disengage before you had access to technology at your fingertips. So once again, this is just a symptom of disengagement, but does it exacerbate things? You could argue that it does, because of the access to the amount of different things that you can get into on a cell phone, especially one if it's not on a school network that is limiting the places that you can go. Budget pressure was the fourth thing that was listed. So the increasing cost of education, and really not even just education, the increasing cost of everything. It's if you look at how much something costs now versus how much something cost 10, 20 years ago, I've consistently seen things that outpriced inflation, which leads to a whole nother topic about why is everything outpricing inflation? Shouldn't inflation be higher? But that's for a whole nother topic. But so these budget pressures are going to affect schools in a number of ways. Staffing is going to be one of the primary ones. If you can't afford more teachers, then you might have staffing shortages. Staffs may be costing more with if your school offers some type of discount or some type of healthcare that where they pay a portion of it. With the rising costs of healthcare, that's just more money that a school is paying out, and it may limit the amount of new teachers that can be brought on. And really what that's going to do is that just mean you're going to see a greater workload on the teachers that are still there, right? Also you need to prioritize the money that you are spending on what will be engaging to the students. And so I've seen a number of different schools approach these budget problems in a number of different ways. Some are focusing on technology to get students engaged with the most recent technologies. Some are investing in professional development programs for their teachers to try to get the most out of teachers. Some are spending more on getting new teachers in, but they may be spending less on programs or things that items for curriculum than other schools might be in order to get those new teachers in. So everyone is dealing with the pressure of budget issues slightly differently, but it is something to consider in 2026. And then lastly, new technology. And so new technologies, so we know AI, and over the past few years AI has really increased, but just new technologies in general that engage students. That seems to be a very important topic in modern education. As we discussed a little earlier, if students are disengaging, if they're playing on their cell phones, if they're playing on their computer, if they're just staring out into space, they're not engaged in the material, right? So new technologies that are designed to engage students. Now, guess what? New technologies are going to be costly. So a lot of these actually tie into each other, and you can't necessarily, just easily slice them away from each other. It's a lot that are built on top of each other. There's a general foundation of things that in terms of these trends. There's a common thread through most of them. So, okay, that was the trends in education for 2026 in the spring, at least. The article that I was referencing is from Discovery Education. Once again, thank you for watching these videos. I appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, please go ahead and put those in the comments below. Thank you. Have a great day.